Hello viewers and listeners. In this episode, Feroz will shift gears, now focusing on building financial stability and security. By building a strong financial foundation, Feroz believes you can protect your purpose, relationships, and health. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the 5th episode of this series.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Wisdom and Wealth Solution. Hello, I'm Feroz Ansari, the author of the Wisdom and Wealth Solution. In our episode today, we are going to focus on part 4 of the book, which is building financial security. But before getting into part 4, let's quickly recap what we have covered so far. So in the 4 earlier episodes, in the first one, we covered introduction to the book and some main ideas. We talked about the concrete box. We talked about the Living 360 method, the Living 360 process, and your zero moment where you completed the grid and the compass survey. Then in our second episode, we focused on know yourself. And there we talked about religion and politics and genetics and biology, and then free will, determinism, and the biases that we have. Then in the third episode, we moved on and we took a broader perspective and we focused on the world and our context. And that covered part 2 of the book, which is Know the World. And there we focused on everything from where the world is today and what are certain trends, mega trends that will have a significant impact on the risk and opportunities that exist in our life, and how do we put our life in context. That was part 2 of the book and a third episode. In the 4th episode, we focused on our purpose, and part 3 of the book is called Know Your Purpose. And there we covered religion, we covered gratitude, we covered relationships, we covered family, we talked about Confucius's concentric circles and how we find meaning. All of the first 3 parts of the book are focused on wisdom wealth. Now we are transitioning and we are moving on to financial wealth. How do we create financial wealth so that we can have total wealth? So now we transition to financial wealth, and which is as important as wisdom wealth, because financial wealth is the foundation on which we create wisdom wealth. And when we add financial wealth and wisdom wealth, it gives us total wealth. And that's the prize that we are looking to achieve. That's where we get to Living 360. That's what we want to accomplish. But financial security is critically important because you can know yourself, you can know the world and your purpose, but you can still feel trapped by money. Financial security is the foundation that protects your purpose, it protects your relationships, your health, and your time. It is the difference between feeling required to work and free to work. And as I mentioned earlier, it is really hard to be happy when you are hungry or when you have financial pressures. What is financial security? What is financial freedom, and why it's important? So financial freedom is not a high number in your bank account. It is maximizing your freedom of choice. It is basically an antidote to golden handcuffs or iron shackles. That's what you're trying to accomplish. You don't want to have golden handcuffs or iron shackles. You want to have financial freedom, which comes from financial security. And why it's important? Here are a few numbers. In the United States, the richest 1% live 14 years longer than the poorest 1%. 1 in 5 US adults will face a mental health challenge every year in the US, and all of it, or a significant part, comes from financial difficulty, financial challenges. 97.5% of all wealth in the United States is owned by the top 50%. And the top 1%, they own 30% of all assets in the United States. And in terms of financial difficulty, last year, 500,000 families in America declared bankruptcy, right? So financial freedom is very important, but unfortunately, it's lopsided. Even though we live in the richest country in the world, financial security is a major concern for a lot of people. And we do not get financial security by being really smart. It is how we spend, how we save, what we know about investments and about savings. It's not only how hard we work or what our skill set is. It is being financially literate. It is knowing how to save and how to invest, how to allocate. Those are all things that lead to financial security. Working hard is important, but being financially literate and financially smart is really makes a huge difference. So now, why do people fail financially, right? Even in the United States, financial insecurity is alarmingly common. Distress sometimes comes from difficult circumstances beyond our control, but more often than not, it comes from individual choices, and the most controllable factor is financial literacy. People do not know how to save. People do not know how to manage their credit. People do not know the power of leverage. People do not know how to invest. People do not know how to allocate their 401ks. These are all things that are critically important. So in terms of financial failure, it could come from medical emergencies. It could come from divorce. It could come from addiction. It could come from job loss. It could come from overspending, but it also comes from financial literacy. So part 4 and the comprehensive investment guide of the book answers all these questions. And rather than just telling stories, the book has actionable plan that you can implement to be able to achieve financial freedom and financial security. So what is financial security? That's the first question. I think in order to get to that question, we have to ask another question, which is, what is enough for me? So you have to define your own enough. This is what financial security means to me. There is no magic number, right? It is primarily maximizing your freedom of choice. You don't want to get trapped in simply the pursuit of more wealth, because that does not give you financial security. It sort of puts you on this hedonic treadmill of more and more and wanting even more. So financial freedom is not a figure, right? You need to know what financial security means to you and then develop a plan to achieve it, right? And as we said earlier, you do not want to have golden handcuffs or iron shackles. And once you get to your enough, you want to make sure that the pursuit of more, right, the chasing more wealth should not lead to a deterioration of your relationships, or it should not lead to you neglecting what is critically important to your purpose and happiness. Right? So avoid that anchor once you get to your enough and you have financial security. And different people have different relationship with enough, and I say that there is no right or wrong answer. You have to define, you have to know what will bring you joy and happiness, but you have to look beyond your concrete box, because your concrete box may be forcing you to play a status game. Oh, I want to achieve this because that's part of your concrete box. It's going to make me look successful. Or I want to have this house because that's what my parents wanted. So you need to be able to go beyond what your concrete box is telling you, that this is your definition of financial security. Now, how do we achieve financial security? There are a few basic steps that you need to follow, that you need to know. First is you get to your zero moment by looking at your cash flow and by looking at your net worth. Your cash flow, which is your budget, is going to tell you how much you're spending and how much you're earning. Do you have surplus and do you have deficit? If you do not have surplus, you cannot invest. So the first most important document in your zero moment is to be able to create your cash flow, to be able to know your budget, money coming in, money going out. That's really important. The next important document or the next important thing to know is your net worth. How rich are you, right? So cash flow does not make rich. That does not make you rich. You can have tremendous amount of money coming in, but if you're spending all of it, you're not really creating net worth because you're not investing. You're looking rich, but you're not rich because you have a significant amount of cash flow, but you're spending all of it. You're not building your net worth. So net worth is basically telling you how rich you are. And the question that you have to ask, do you want to look rich or be rich, right? So cash flow can make you look rich, but your net worth statements would give you the answer, how rich are you? How much wealth do you have? And how do you calculate your net worth statement? You take your assets, you minus your liabilities, and that would give you your net worth. So net worth equals what you own minus what you owe. That is your net worth. And the reality is that only 37% of Americans have a cash flow statement or they make a budget. And if you combine both, which is cash flow, and if you are able to make a budget and know your net worth, 67% of Americans don't have it. So just by doing these two exercises, by creating a cash flow and knowing your net worth, you will be among the top 33% in terms of financial literacy of what you know. So spend a few minutes, make a budget, and then calculate your net worth, and that will put you in 33% of Americans who actually know both of these, which is cash flow and their net worth. Now, when we are talking about cash flow and spending, I think you have to understand why you spend, how you spend, and how you spend wisely. Money decisions are never simply math. They're emotion. They give you identity. It's a habit wearing a calculator, right? So you have to understand that money, why do we spend money? And recently I was reading an article and it said that we are all playing a status game. And the more money we spend, it could give us a higher status because we could be driving a nicer car or wearing nice clothes or living in a nice house. What is that doing? It is giving us status. And at some level, each one of us is playing a status game. And they say there are three types of games that every person is playing. They're either playing a dominance status game, or they're playing a virtue status game, or they're playing a success status game. They're saying these are the three games that all of us are playing, and money can sort of play into all these three status games, right? Which is dominance, virtue, or success. So I think as we are spending money, we should think of what we really need to spend. And again, there is no right or wrong spending. It has to be based on your values. When you spend money, you have to think that is it bringing me joy? Is it adding to my happiness? or I'm spending this because my concrete box is dictating me to spend this money, right? Because these are the expectations of my concrete box and they are making me spend. So be very mindful and be very thoughtful. And when you're spending money, think of it, can I afford it? Does it make sense? Would the spending make any sense? Whatever I'm buying, will it be meaningful for me a week from now, 2 weeks from now, month from now, year from now? And as we said, when people buy a new car, they do get a bump in happiness, but it only lasts for 3 weeks. A new home, 9 months, right? So getting happy or enhancing our happiness by spending more money, that's very temporary. It does not last. It is that hedonic treadmill. So we want to avoid that. But again, if you have wealth, if you have money, if you have reached that level of financial security, there is no judgment in terms of what is a good expense or what is a bad expense. It has to be based on what will help you get to that degree of financial security that you need in order to continue to build your financial wealth, so you can also build wisdom wealth, and that leads to total wealth. Now, here are the 10 practical steps that you could take today in order to build your financial wealth. And I will go through them quickly and then we will talk about them in greater detail. So first, we already talked about it, master your cash flow, calculate your net worth. You should develop a long-term vision. Where do you want to be financially? I'm going on a tangent, but a long time ago I read the novel Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And there's a line there and that stuck in my mind. And it says that if you have a vision, if you want something really badly, the universe will conspire to make it happen. Right? Think about the statement. The universe will conspire to make your dreams come true. So have that vision, and I will tell you, the universe is on your side most of the time. Right? So let the universe conspire to help you get to your aspirations and dreams. So create a vision. If your mind's eye can see it, if you think about it, then subconsciously you are moving in that direction. So having a financial vision, having a vision for your life is critically important. Then next step would be to create a short-term action plan. Here is my vision, but how am I going to accomplish it? So create a plan. It could be how much am I going to save? Where will I invest? And then one thing that you must do, if you're still working, you must maximize your tax deferred investment in your IRA or your 401k or your Roth. That is a must, because most people, they do get a match from their employer in their 401k. Not putting money in a 401k, I would think that you're being unfair to yourself. That's absolutely wrong. The first thing that you should do is always put in at least as much as you should always put into your 401k that you are getting 100% of your employer's match. Otherwise, you're leaving that money on the table. So max out your tax deferred account. Now that you have money saved up, how do you invest it? Number 6, you should think about creating a diversified portfolio. If you're young, you can think about allocating all of your money to low-cost index funds. It's a good idea because when you're investing in index funds, you are not taking active risk. Your performance will be very similar, if not the same, as the market. So use low-cost index funds, and if you're young, you can allocate all your portfolio to equities. But again, you should know your own risk profile and make sure that your investments are appropriate based on your investment goals. Then the next thing that you must consider is buying your home. That's critically important because buying a home builds wealth. We have tremendous tax advantages when you buy a home. Then after you have maxed out your retirement, you have purchased a home, you should put extra money in a brokerage account. Don't keep it under the mattress, because inflation will eat away all the money that you're hiding under the mattress or you have in a savings account or in a checking account. If you have any additional cash, invest it. And yes, you should have some money for emergencies, but think about investing is important. So any savings you have, invest them as soon as you can. And again, you can look at ETFs or low-cost index funds, or you can even create a diversified portfolio yourself, but invest your money. And then if you have a long period of time where you can let your money compound, you can take more risk and be in equities. Then you should also think about the risks that exist in your life. You should manage those risks. You should first know the risks. It could be life, it could be health, it could be disability, it could be accident. So think of all the risks that exist, and you may use insurance policies to be able to manage that risk. And then last but not least, you should maintain discipline. Don't get emotional and let compounding do its magic. Compounding is very powerful. So if these are the 10 things, if you can implement them, there is a very good chance that you will achieve financial freedom and you will feel financially secure. One thing that you can do is make good behavior automatic, right? Save money automatically. So before you even see it, put money in your 401k, you'll get a match from your employer, and that's 100% return on day one. That's the match from your employer. So automate your savings, right? Then then every month you should say, I will pay myself 5% or 10% first. Then automate investing, that every time you save, the money goes into either low-cost index funds or ETFs, and create an asset allocation or an investment plan that fits well with your financial strategy. And then get out of the way. Don't overthink it. Let compounding do its magic. The US stock market from 1960 until 2025, from 1950 until 2025, over the last 75 years, the S&P 500 has delivered a compounded return of 11.2%. That number is huge, right? Even if you can get close to your number, that number, which is 11.2, your money, you would not imagine how fast, how big your nest egg could grow. Because 11.2% compounded, even 10% compounded or 9% compounded return, 8% compounded return is very, very powerful. So don't get to control your emotions, get out of your way, invest in ideas or in low-cost solutions that can match the market. Don't try to do anything fancy, and you will see that your money will continue to grow. So here are a few time-tested investment ideas that if you keep it simple and you are in an index fund, let's say the S&P has returned, let's say 10%, 10.5%, but an average investor has only earned 7%, right? So they leave 3% on the table, and 3% over a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-year period is a huge number. So don't earn 5% or 6%, earn 9% or 10% by being disciplined. How do you get to it? You should know your investment ABCs. You should keep it simple. You should diversify your portfolio, minimize your cost and your taxes, and then stay calm and stay invested. Now, I would like to tell you that you can think of investing like planting a garden. That is, so you are the gardener. You're going to nurture this garden of investments. And you can look at different investment options or different securities, right? And see what part they can play in your garden. So stocks, you should consider them to be your oak tree, right? When you plant an oak tree, it starts slow, but once it grows, it can become huge and big and strong. So when stocks play the role of an oak tree in your portfolio, when you buy stocks, hold them for the long term. They compound. Historically, they have compounded at very attractive rates. So those are your stocks. Consider your bonds as vegetables in your portfolio, right? These are steady, predictable, and they produce income. They add stability to your portfolio. Then real estate is like the fruit orchard, right? And I'm talking about investment real estate. If you can manage your real estate portfolio well, it can provide reliable harvest. It can give you income. There are significant benefits. Now, commodities, they are sort of the wild herbs in your portfolio. The gold, the silver, these commodities, they can play sprinkle a little bit, right, to add flavor. Don't overdo it. It can be a small part of your portfolio. And then cash is your emergency. It's your watering can in your garden. So then again, how will you tend to your investment garden? With stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, and cash. But most of it, if you're young, if you have a long investment horizon, most of your portfolio can be in stocks, right? Because stocks historically have delivered a much higher return than bonds. So again, don't think that age should be the only criteria for your asset allocation between stocks, bonds, and other asset classes. Your cash flow need from your portfolio should be the primary determinant to see how much money should be allocated to equities and how much to fixed income. And of course, equities have delivered twice as much as fixed income or bonds. Now, when we are investing, it's not easy to control our emotions. When you are creating an asset allocation, when you are creating an investment strategy, it should meet two criteria. Number one, it should be financially feasible. So your asset allocation, your investment plan, your investment strategy should be financially feasible, meaning that it is in line with what you want to accomplish financially. But it should also be emotionally viable. Your investment strategy should sit right with you. Otherwise, if you have too much risk and your portfolio is too volatile and you get nervous, you start watching the markets early in the morning every day, and any 5, 7, 10, 12, 15% move makes you really nervous, and you have this urge to sell your stocks and go into cash, then that portfolio is not emotionally viable for you. So think about how you will invest, whether this investment strategy is going to help you achieve your financial goals, but equally important, it should be emotionally viable, that you will stay with this strategy over a long period of time. Because now, when you're investing, before you even get there, you should tell your mind that market is going to go down 10, 15, 20% every year. On an average, the market goes down about 14% from peak to trough every year. But what's important to recognize is that every 3 to 5 years, there will be a bear market. The stocks will go down 30, 40, maybe even 50%. Can you handle that volatility? Will you be okay with that drawdown in your portfolio? Historically, markets have always bounced back, right? But the emotional drain, the emotional pressure that these drawdowns and this volatility will cause you, can you hold on to these investments? So that's really important to know, that your portfolio is financially feasible or emotionally viable. And over a period of time, the market has what really drives investing for a lot of people is FOMO, fear of missing out. And the stock market has a very interesting way of giving us these acronyms. They play on our psyche, they play on our FOMO, right? So if you go back to the 1960s, it was the Nifty 50. If you look at the 90s, it was the .com. In the 2000s, it was the BRICS. Then in the 2010s, it was TINA, then it was FANG, and now it's Mag 7, it's crypto, right? It's AI. That's sort of the big conversation that's taking place today. And these acronyms, they trap you, they suck you in, and they suck you in pretty much when it's the peak. So you will end up buying at the absolute wrong time if you are trapped by these acronyms or by the hype that the market sort of creates every few years. And it pulls in investors at the very peak, and then you sort of end up holding the bag. So create a strategy, make sure that it fits well, that it's financially feasible and emotionally viable. So you don't need to outsmart the market. You simply need to out-discipline an average investor. So do plan for your emotions, know that the market is going to be volatile, and have a plan, an emotional plan, how you will deal with that volatility. Because if you're able to deal with volatility, compounding is magical. It's really hard to imagine the power of compounding. So imagine that you're starting at age 25 and you're earning $75,000 a year and you're only saving 10% in your 401k and you have a 4% match from your employer. When you get to age 67, right? When you get to age 67, your 401k can have $4.78 million if you are earning an 8% return, right? Which you can by being in index funds. Historically, the stock market has even delivered more. But if you're earning 8% when your salary is only $75,000 and and you get a 4% match, you're putting in 10% of your salary, you can get to 4.78 million if you earn 8%. What if you only earned 3%? What will be the value of your account, 401k? Only 1.5 million. Where did the $3 million go? You missed it because you were going in and out of the market, because you were not disciplined. So when you are investing, create that discipline. Don't leave $3 million on the table. And the difference is going to be how you manage your emotions and how financially literate you are. That's the reason why in my book, The Wisdom and Wealth Solution, Part 4 gives you a plan, everything from cash flow to how you can allocate your portfolio based on risk profile. And then the comprehensive investment guide goes into a lot more detail to go into the nitty-gritty of all investment options, how you can implement those in your portfolio. So again, have a vision and let compounding do the magic, and don't get trapped by the 3% return. Your outcomes, if you are able to do these three things, have a vision, let the money compound, and avoid the 3% trap, your financial, the probability of achieving financial security is very high. Now, in terms of how should you invest your money, in the book I go in a lot of detail about allocation based on your age and primarily risk tolerance and risk appetite, and risk-taking capability is more important than age. If you have 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years until you will touch your retirement, you can allocate them more aggressively. You can consider to be in equities because equities have delivered a much higher return. But if you will need this money, then you can have a 80-20 portfolio, 80% equities, 20% bonds. If you're drawing on this portfolio, you could consider a 60-40 portfolio, 60% stock, 40% fixed income. It could be 50-50, it could be 40-60. So you need to understand and maybe work with your financial advisor to determine what is the right type of asset allocation, but get to that right asset allocation and make that allocation and then stay with that strategy, and it will take you to your financial destination. So as we say, use our 3 A's, develop that awareness, have that knowledge, become financially literate, then take action, make a plan, execute the plan, and then accept what the market is going to do. Accept that every 3 to 5 years there is going to be a bear market and there will be volatility, and learn from that volatility. Train your emotions. So bring in that the 3A's process in your portfolio management strategy to achieve financial freedom and financial security. Moving on, right? Now we've just talked about investing. Risk management is really important, right? So when you're looking at risk, we have the risk of death, we have the risk of disability, we have the risk of illness, we have the risk of needing long-term care. So how do we manage that risk? So there is a matrix that we use, which is what type of risk you should avoid, what type of risk you should reduce, what type of risk you should transfer by buying insurance, and what risk you should retain. So and then make a strategy that is in line with your overall financial strategy, but be mindful that we have risk in our life, and unexpected events happen, accidents happen, and we need to manage those. The other idea that's equally important is buying a home. We must realize that it is really important to get into real estate, and getting into real estate early. According to a Fed survey, the median net worth of a homeowner is 40 times greater than that of a renter. So when you buy a home, then you're paying yourself, not the landlord, right? When you buy a home, you have tremendous tax benefits. It is a great legacy for your family. So think about buying a home. That should be a priority, and it will go a long way in helping you get to that place of financial security. To conclude now, what did we talk about? So this is just a brief overview of the things that you should consider. The book has a lot more detail. So how do we build financial security? Know your current financial situation. Do that zero moment analysis, right? Get to your cash flow, make your net worth statement, right? Then define your financial security. What does it mean to you to be financially secure? Have that vision and have that plan, because the universe will conspire to make it happen. Become financially literate, create awareness, have knowledge. That would be really helpful in getting to financial freedom. Then make your investing disciplined, make it automatic so that you really don't have to think about it all the time. Let the power of compounding do its magic so that your investments can grow. Start early and let compounding work for you. Last but not least, recognize the risks that you have in your life and manage them. And you can use insurance to be able to manage those risks. So these are the ideas to build financial security. It's sort of a very broad conversation. In the book, we go into a lot more detail in how you can define financial security and get to it. Because again, financial wealth is integral to our total wealth, because it's very difficult to build wisdom wealth if you don't have financial wealth. So financial wealth is the foundation on which we build wisdom wealth to get to our destination of total wealth, and we need total wealth in order to achieve living 360. So this was a quick overview of the last part of the book, which is Build Financial Security. In the next episode, we will do a conclusion of what each of these parts mean for Living 360, for total wealth, for stepping out of the concrete box, and then leading an authentic, joyful life that is supported by financial security. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to welcoming you in the next episode. Thank you.